I drive there and I looked online and I did the Google Earth, but I wasn't really paying it. I saw parking, cool. By the way, first thing I look at is parking usually. And if it's no parking, I'm like, I'm out. There's no point. And so there's parking, and it was a relatively bigger house, like 20, I think it was also 2,500 square feet, something like there. And I get there, and I'm not making this up. It's a mobile park. It's a mobile home park. And I think what they did was they just put up walls and created a house around it. That's what it looked like to me. So I was like, oh man.
I want to welcome back my friend, my main man, Jarrod, who I like to joke with. And he is coming back, first person to come back and do a follow-up interview. When he came the first time, he was talking about how he's working on his first co-living deal. So, Jarrod, why don't you fill us in again about what that means and some of the personal challenges as well as the business challenges you're having? So let's just dive in and we can just go with the flow.
Sure. Yeah. Co-living, at least to me, I'm sure there's a formal definition, but co-living is having multiple people in a single family home, each of which renting out a room in that home. And so, you could take a normal 4 or 5 bedroom house and rent it out that way, but it's more cost effective. And I guess, not cost effective, but you earn more if you add the sorry, adding bedrooms to the common areas. So if you take like say a living room and a formal dining room and basically put walls up and create another bedroom and then you rent that out, then the cost of the home is makes it worth it as far as the cash flow you can earn from said bedrooms. So
So you're actually sitting in the property that you're working on right
yeah,
now, right?
I'm, yeah, I'm sitting in the very back bedroom right now because the contractor's just finished today. So I'd hired Wild West Services, say that fast 3 times, to come out and add those rooms. And they actually added a lot of value because this particular company has worked with Jeff Husa before, and they've done a few of these, four before mine. Mine was the fifth. And they had some suggestions, and I went with them because they were actually better than my plan. So that was nice, including the Arizona room was one of them. So in Arizona, they have like a porch, covered porch, and sometimes it's walled in, sometimes it's not. This one was walled in and with sliding glass doors. So we basically just walled off the sliding glass doors and created 2 bedrooms out of the porch area. We did it nice. We put wood floors down, and I'll send you some pictures. So we made 2 bedrooms there, and then the 2 bedrooms with the dining room, formal dining room, and the living room. So there's a non-formal dining room, a breakfast nook as it's laid out on the layout. That's still there, and it's fairly big, so that way we can accommodate the people living here. So it's enough room. In other words, it's not like cramped.
How many bedrooms in total are you going to have in there?
So it's 8 bedrooms. So it was a 4 bedroom. Now it's an 8 bedroom. But it was
Wow.
a 2,500 and some odd square foot house. So generally 250 square feet per room is kind of what people like to say, and myself included. So
So effectively you're doubling rent by doing 8 bedrooms versus four, or how much more money
doubling
do you
the
think you can
rent by
make?
room. Yeah, doubling the rent by room for sure. If you were to long-term rental this particular house in this neighborhood, you could probably cash flow 100 or 200 bucks if you're lucky. Right. And of course, maintenance and all that
Per
eats
month?
that up per month. Right. And so with the rent by room model, strictly finance speaking, you can get about it's $946 per room when you figure it out, but PadSplit does it about 215 per room, but it's 4.3 weeks in a month. So they charge by the week. It works out to be for this house and the size of the rooms over 900 bucks a room, right? So times eight, 7,200. But the math, sorry, I'm trying to be politically correct. The primary, I'm older, sorry. The primary bedroom, I just learned that by the way. The primary bedroom is huge. It's like 22 by I think 12 or something. It has 3 closets. It's really big. So I'm guessing that will earn more than your normal bedroom. And by the way, those numbers are based on the average room size. All but two of the rooms in this house are bigger than that. So we'll see. Ellis Tran from Arizona PadSplit did come and tour the property, but we're not going to go live for until January 1st. I'm going to segue a little bit here, Sonny. The reason I'm doing that is it is done, it's finished. I do have to do blinds, but that's not that big a deal. But we're going to run it as a short-term rental for the rest of the year. The reason I'm doing that for people that watched the first podcast, I left my job August 15th. So I have a fairly, and you got a payout, a buyout. So I've got a fairly sizable W-2 income I have to offset. And I was trying to reach the 750 hours, and I could actually get there as a real estate professional. But I got to thinking about it, and if I'm an IRS agent and I'm looking at this guy that has this huge, or more than average W-2 income, and then he's claiming real estate professional status after August 15th to the end of the year, mathematically, it's gonna raise some eyebrows, even if I can prove it out. So I decided to go the short-term rental. They call it a short-term rental loophole, but it's not really a loophole. It's just that's the tax code. So, you have your active income, your passive income, right? So typically your rentals are passive income and your W-2 is active income. So if you can make one of those match up, you can deduct, back and forth. Well, short-term rental under 7 days on average for the year, that's a short-term rental and it's active income. So therefore I can write off my expenses, costs, blah, 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 cost seg the house, depreciate all that from my active income business, short-term rental from my active income W-2. So that's what I'm doing until the end of the year. And then January 1, I'll flip the script and go to co-living and run it as a pad split house. So
Very cool. I see you've really thought this out, and that's wise that you've been putting in the time to do that alongside building out that property. What are some of the challenges you've had, considering this is your first co-living property and you're actually out of state from where you live, away from
yeah.
family and all this? Like, how are you coping? What are the challenges you're having, both with this business side of it and some of the personal stuff?
Well, it's funny you bring that up because originally the plan was not to go pad split. We were going to manage it ourselves, do a co-living house, kind of add some nice touches. The house has, granite countertops, dual vanities, things like that. Not super high end, but not, low end either. So we're gonna, do some special stuff with it. But um, the challenges are, being away from the family. So I have a wife and three kids. I live in Oregon, but the house is in Arizona. So I've been down here, I don't know, 5 times now in the last 3 months, something like that. Back forth, and it's kind of rough. My daughters are, teenage age, so they're, one of them found boys and they're into their friends. So it's not, I mean, it's still an impact, but it's not as much as my son who's 9. But I've sort of tried to mitigate that with technology. So, we do the Zoom calls and talk and stuff, but he's also a Mario Kart player and I am too. So I brought a Switch with me and we play online Mario Kart, almost every night. So that's kind of fun. I beat him last time. Haha. My triumph. I beat a 9-year-old in Mario Kart.
That's
But
huge.
yeah, it's a big deal, man, because he's good at that freaking game. He knows all the maps and everything. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, so we try to mitigate, but it's tough. He's 9, and we're the whole point of doing this for me. Well, it started off for saving taxes, but the whole point was to get time back. And my wife correctly pointed out that, hey, you're spending more time doing this than with the family. I was like, oh yeah, you're right. So it's a balance, and I'm definitely not balanced right now. I've gone absolutely crazy diving into this stuff, both the private money lending side and the I don't think we've talked about that. So I have it listed on Gator, but I do private money lending, and I'm doing a lot of activity in that space that I don't even think I've talked to you about. But I've done the math, and this is going to sound crazy, and it's a conservative estimate. 10 million in 10 years as on the private money lending side. So with my 401k rolling into self-directed, that's in motion now. I'll be at 2 million in 5, and then it'll grow exponentially from there. And I can do a numbers breakdown. But that's if I turn it over, and that's conservative. I've got a few loans I've done at 15% at 2 months before. So what I'm doing is a 10% at 3 months. Now there's going to be ebbs and flows. There's going to be 4 month loans. Some are, most of them will be 3 months and more. But if I can just hit that 10% per quarter, more or less, with the capital I have now, on average, I can actually get to 10 million in 9 years, but I'm giving myself an extra year buffer and the conservative because you can get 12% or even some 15s. The 15s are rare. Anyway, point is, I don't think it's that crazy, and I don't think I think it's achievable. But you know, so anyway,
Nice.
networking,
Maybe,
talking to
maybe,
people, yeah,
maybe we'll do another
yeah, on the
interview
private,
about that.
yeah,
I know many of us are interested in how we can get a better return on our money than the bank and other riskier investments. Um,
yeah.
I've I've looked into note investing and there's various things, but various avenues in the world, obviously, but in real estate itself, there's so many different paths you can go down.
Oh
So,
yeah,
private money lending, even if you have a smaller amount of money, could be an option. So maybe we'll talk about that another time.
yeah. So the challenges are more personal in nature, um, rather than I've been, I don't know, relatively lucky or network with the right people. I mentioned before Jeff Husa, that guy's awesome. Um, Network with a bunch of different people and then took advice from people that I respected and trusted. And that's how I found the Wild West services. They're great. You know, they came in on budget, on time, did great work. My real estate agent, Stephen Gomez, he's phenomenal. You know, I've had a lot of good. I'll call them team people. You know, matter of fact, Steven's looking for my next. I'm trying to get another house before the end of the year because I have that W-2 to offset. And so with the cost seg, it comes out to about 78 grand because it's 80% this year instead of 100. So that kind of sucks, but it's better than nothing. The bonus depreciation, what I'm talking about there, I can go deep into that later if you want. But tax purposes, I need another house by the end of the year to help get more of that W-2 offset. So
So going back to the challenges you're having, you're out of state and you're away from family. You have to make 5 trips. And that was the reason that you decided to not self-manage. As originally you were planning, what we talked about in the last interview, is you were going to live in the house because this is a loan you took in your own name, right? And it helps to, I mean, that's part of it's part of one of the incentives that you have that you can take is to be able to live in the house while you get a loan that doesn't require you to pay more as an investor. Did I say that right?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, the intent was to live in the house and rent out 7 of the rooms. I think we talked about that last time, but you know, I've got some family stuff going on with my mother and my dad, and then so there's some life things that have happened that have now changed that are going to require me to go a little different direction. So I'm just going to pivot, you know, adjust.
Totally fine. And tell people about
Yeah.
PadSplit. A lot of people probably don't know about PadSplit. It's not yet a universal household name like Airbnb is. And back in the day, in like 2008, when Airbnb started, hardly anybody knew about that back then. So what is PadSplit?
So yeah, so Pat, so the co-living thing where you rent by the room, you have multiple rooms in a house, and basically taking a single family home and turning it into a single bedroom apartment complex, more or less. PadSplit is a company that it's more of a software company, but they take a 15% cut of the gross, and they manage all the, I won't say tenant because they run it as members, but tenants, so people can the people living there, they manage all the people side of the house. So I'll say tenants. The way they run it though is they run it members and they charge by week. So they create an LLC. Those members are part of the LLC, and that LLC rents from the other LLC. So entity to entity. But yeah, so PadSplit's a company that manages all that for you for a price. And you still have to manage the property maintenance wise on your own, which I've got a couple of property managers I'm talking to. So I'll be completely passive on it if I can find a property manager that will run it. I think I've found a couple. We'll see. But yeah, PadSplit manages the people side of the house.
And so what's your timeline again for getting this house up and running with PadSplit?
January 1st. So Ellis Tran is the AZ rep for PadSplit, and I've been talking to him for a couple months, and just uh, talking about things and whatnot. And so then I finally did talk to him just recently and told him, "Hey, look, man, we're gonna do this sooner than later." Because I was gonna do it a year or two from now, you know, down the road. But we're gonna just accelerate that. So January 1st. We'll probably start marketing, say, you know, depending what Ellis tells me, November timeframe. Like I said, we still have some blinds to do, and I wasn't in the co-living. I wasn't going to furnish most of the rooms. I was going to just furnish a couple. Now, so I'm going to run as a short-term rental. I'm going to go ahead and furnish all the rooms, and get it ready for a pad split play in January 1st. But in the meantime, I'm going to run it as a short-term rental, and that way there'll be beds for people to sleep in if it actually even rents. I don't know. We'll see because it's this is not set up for short term rental. I mean, I've got codes on all the doors, and it's set up for co living. It's not really. I don't know if I
Are
should
you,
say that on a video, but
are you planning to short-term rental the different rooms individually, or are you going to short-term the entire house?
I can short term the entire house or individual rooms. I guess I'll have to figure that out because, like I said, it wasn't really part of the plan. But talking to the
Yeah,
accountants and
but it
whatnot,
makes
they're like,
sense.
yeah, they're like, hey, you could do it this way. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that works, you know.
Yeah, the challenge with short-term rentals, people want a furnished place that they can just come and be like a hotel and just enjoy it and then be able to walk out and walk away. And so you need that turnkey kind of experience.
Right.
And then
That's
you
one of the
gotta
little
you gotta
challenges
do the
there.
laundry and do all that stuff to
That's funny you
prep for
mentioned
the
that.
next
Yeah.
place, the next
Because
person.
my cleaning company, they don't do linens. They just clean. Because that's originally what I'd asked. And so then I talked to her yesterday. She's coming out tomorrow. And I said, "Hey, can I throw a wrench in this thing?" And she's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Do you do linen?" She's like, "No." I was like, "All right, well, I'll have to find somebody else for the short-term rental thing till the end." She's like, "Oh, no, no, we can do that." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." I wasn't trying to like pressure. I was just asking. So she said she could do that. I told her what I was doing. I was like, I don't expect a lot of uh, rentals. I really don't. I mean, I'm going to list it that way for tax purposes, and if somebody rents it, great. Hell, maybe I'll even make it cheaper. Rent the whole house for like $100 or something. I don't know. No, not that bad. But rent it out short-term rental, and then um, for basically for tax purposes.
Yeah, that's intriguing. It'll be a future update for us, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Meanwhile, you're still in the construction phase. How's you mentioned it's
Oh,
going
it's
smooth.
done.
Mentioned it's going pretty smoothly compared to how construction could go. And oh, it's already done completely.
Yeah, yeah, it's done. The only reason they're here today is because I added some stuff that wasn't on the original list, and so that was nice. They did some stuff on the Arizona rooms, the step, the transition. I just wanted it to look a little better, and then I'll take some pictures. I have some before pictures, and I'll take I haven't actually seen it myself. I've been online all day, so I don't know what it looks like. And they did a backsplash on the counter because the room that we created was on the other side of the kitchen. And the kitchen originally had a window there to the Arizona room. So we walled off the window and created a room behind it. And there needed to be a backsplash there. And then, or at least I thought so. I mean, I just kind of figure you should have a backsplash. And then there were two of the doors that weren't quite right. I'm not trying to be picky, but we put in a new door. I don't like pocket doors, so I had them remove the pocket doors and put in regular doors so I could run my key locks and just also so they could, instead of having a little latch on a sliding door, I just didn't like it. So we did regular doors. But when they did that, some of they weren't built the same way. I don't know how he explained it to me. Like there wasn't a header the right way or something. So the doors are in there and they're fine, but they just didn't seal up right. They were like maybe a quarter inch or half inch gap. And I guess I am being kind of anal there, but I just wanted them to close flush. That's all. And so I assume he fixed those. So I'll have to go look. Knickknacks. So we're done. Just waiting
Yeah.
on my wife to come down and, order blinds because the whole house, there's no window treatment anywhere.
Were there
Um,
any glitches along the way that you want to mention or potential pitfalls to watch out for in construction? Um, Anything that you think people would like to hear about as things to keep in mind when they're going to go about a construction project like that to convert a house to co-living in your case specifically?
um, this is going to sound bad, but I had such a good contractor, and the house, it was really the house was laid out. It's pretty boxy, and it was relatively simple to just put a wall up and then boom, you have a room, and then put another wall up and you have another room, right? And then the Arizona room, I was the one who actually made it more. I was the problem there. Instead of just doing what was simple, which would be to divide the Arizona room and create two rooms out of it, I was trying to complicate matters by creating the room in the breakfast nook and then another room in the Arizona. And then because I wanted the kitchen window for in my head, I just thought, you got to have a window for the kid. I don't know why. And then when John showed up, he's like, "Look, man, why don't you just create two rooms in the Arizona room?" I'm like, "All right, that's way simpler." And I was more receptive to that because I was having trouble trying to figure out how to get the vents to line up. So in Arizona, air conditioning is a big deal. And so when I came down here prior to seeing or buying it, or we were in the 10-day inspection time frame. So I came down here, we had the inspector looking at the house, and I was walking through the house with a different lens. He was looking at it obviously to make sure everything functions and no issues, but the vents. Originally, I was going to split the master bedroom, but I didn't do that because the vents for AC in Arizona would have been too much work to try to get the duct over and move to what we were going to create another room and all that. So we can't we just decided to leave the master that size because it was going to be too difficult to make that work. And even if we did make it work, the division of the rooms would have added some more complexity. So we said, enough of that. Um, So the only thing we had was some evidence of termites during the inspection, and some of the grading on the house was, just knickknack stuff. But really, got pretty lucky, and they got pretty lucky with the contractor too. I'd say the only thing that was a little, again, back to the personal thing. I suppose when we talk about it, I kind of have to now that my wife had to go in for surgery, and so she was worried. She had some tumors, and one of them was precancerous and whatnot. So anyway, we had to do surgery, so we had to wait. So we decided to last minute go to Hawaii with the family to enjoy a little time before the surgery because she was kind of worried about, what would happen. And so I actually closed on the host from Maui. I was like getting up at 3 in the morning because I had to work with people on title code and stuff. So it was, and then anyway, yeah, so there were some
Wow.
challenges, but those are all personal challenges, right? And so, nothing on the real estate side, I guess. It's more on the personal nature. So,
Well, thanks for sharing that. I'm sure many people can relate to the family challenges because those are often the hardest, and it's what holds many of us back from ever even venturing into real estate. You say, "Hey, it's a good idea. I want to do this." Before we got on here, you were actually mentioning someone else who was saying, "Hey, I want to do real estate, but I don't know. I can't find the time. I have family obligations, all these things, and it's never really going to be the perfect time because something's always going on with life, family, friends, work, etc." And like, how do you actually get into that that lane if you want to be in that lane? In your case, yeah, things worked out with work where it's like you had to go find something else. But even then, you had family challenges. You had a whole bunch of potential things you could have said, "Well, I still can't because of this, and this," right? And you still found a way.
yeah, I think, if you want something bad enough, you're gonna make it happen. I mean, I don't know. So I've got a whole bunch of other challenges I didn't even mention, but we don't have enough time for all that.
Yeah, and you
Uh,
don't obviously need to mention anything you
yeah,
don't want to,
yeah,
but that's also relatable. Like the stuff you mentioned, there's probably so much under the surface of that, and so many emotions around it, and so much backstory behind it. And that's how life is. So again, thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else you want to
yeah.
mention along the lines of your update on your journey so far with co-living and real estate in general?
Well, I'm currently looking for my next house. My original goal was to get one house by the end of the year. And so we hit that goal early. And so now my goal is to get another one before the end of the year. Um, so I'll plug my buy box here real quick.
Go for it.
For anybody listening, anything that's 2,250 square feet non HOA in Maricopa County, Arizona, that prefer no pool, I'm a buyer. So So basically, Glendale, Peoria, Gilbert, Chandler. If I can afford Scottsdale, great, but pretty much under 500,000 is kind of my buy box.
Any other criteria?
That's pretty much it. I mean, prefer no pool, but if there's a pool, I can gate it up. Parking is the big one, but it's kind of hard to say, hey, I need parking for 8 people. But yeah, so I can,
Well, it's
there's some
important, right?
houses. Yeah, it is. Um, I can. There's two houses that we're gonna look at. I'm in Arizona now, so my wife and my realtor have been sending me addresses, and so I just drive around the valley looking at these houses. But we found one in Mesa. I'm gonna go look out today. It's actually a duplex, and it's 375. That's not it's not my normal buy box, but the the lot is huge, and it's a duplex. And for 375, man, I can cash flow that just as a duplex. But I was thinking about if it's possible, maybe knock down the wall, create uh, more living. We'll see. I have to see the floor plan. And then the other one is in Gilbert, which is not in my buy box. It's also off my chart. It's 575, but I have other funds I could tap into if it's worth it. The reason I like it is it's a lot of parking, nice house, and the layout. It's 2538 or something square feet. It's a pretty big house, so it would easily do 8 rooms, got plenty of parking, and it's in Gilbert, non-HOA. So that one, I mean, that one would be worth stretching a bit, I think. But we'll see. I don't know. I got to do the drive-by thing. So
Yeah. definitely smart to actually go over there and walk it if you can, at least outside at first, and then inside when you're able to.
Oh yeah, I went to one yesterday. It was either yesterday or the day before. My wife sent it to me. I'm like, all right. I drive there and I looked online and I did the Google Earth, but I wasn't really paying it. I saw parking. Cool. Because by the way, first thing I look at is parking usually. And if it's no parking, I'm like, I'm out. There's no point. And so there's parking, and it was a relatively bigger house, like 20, I think it was also 2,500 square feet, something like there. And I get there, and I'm not making this up. It's a mobile park. It's a mobile home park. And I think what they did was they just put up walls and created a house around it. That's what it looked like to me. So I was like, oh man. So I just kept driving. I'm like, I didn't I need to do better at my due diligence before because it was far. I had to, and I just like I said, just bought this truck and it's not the best on gas, but I needed the truck for moving stuff around. So I decided to do it. And I'm not going to be here that often enough to worry about it. So anyway, I drove all the way to it was almost Mesa. And I get there and I'm like, I need to do better at my Google Earth search and look around, not just look at the house and the parking because I wasted, probably 45 minutes of driving and fuel and all that. It adds up. So I learned from it.
Lesson learned, and thank you
Lesson
for
learned.
sharing the lesson. Some of these things that when you're learning something new are embarrassing. And it's like I don't want to tell anybody about that, but it's amazing when you do, and then people relate to it and they connect with you, and because everybody can remember things when they were learning anything that made them feel like, oh my gosh, am I ever going to learn this? Am I just going to be a bonehead for my entire life? And I was gotten to a point where I just make fun of myself for making mistakes because we all do. And as long as we're learning from it, then we can continue to, as they say, fail forward instead of just stay in the same place or even go backwards. So thank you so much, Jared. Is there anything else you want to share that you think people should know if they're going to go on this journey, let's say co-living specifically, based on what you've learned so far, what would you tell them?
I don't know if it's co-living specifically, but I may have mentioned this the last time, but for me, the first 2 months, I was just very, even though I'm an extrovert, I was very focused on doing everything myself. And it wasn't until I started reaching out and networking, that whole network is your net worth thing. That is 100% true. And it's proven time and time again to myself that that's key. So whether you're doing co-living or anything else, this is like a team sport, it's not an individual sport. Uh,
Yep.
that network is your net worth is true, and not just from a like a bottom line dollar thing. I mean, networking with people like the contractors I met, all that stuff, and then the Stephen Gomez and all the people, and then just not talking to so and so and all the networking piece. It all sort of comes together, and I help people too, right? I haven't. I don't know everything, but there's newer people that are newer than me, and I can just give information. They can take it or leave it, but I've learned this, this, and this, and then they take it or leave it or whatnot. But I'd say the networking piece was huge. Like I couldn't believe how big of a deal that was. I think that's probably the first thing people should do. Just start networking, talking, learning, that sort of thing, and then things just sort of magically happen after that. I don't know how, it just does, you know.
So true. And that's something I hope everyone does with you after this. You got your contact info
Yeah.
right on the
Oh yeah.
screen. Just like
Yeah.
last time, I will put your contact info in the video description. And I hope people reach out to you. I hope people reach out to me and let's just all get to know each other because we all have different gifts. We all have different strengths and weaknesses. And like you said, it's a team sport. That's one of the things that attracted me to real estate, even though many people would say, including me, that this market is a really tough market. It's a dangerous market in a lot of ways. You got to be careful of what you get into and why you're getting into it because market's been going up for so many years. It's bound to have a downturn. We're in the midst of a downturn. But if you have the right strategies, if you buy well and you know what you're doing with it, then you can weather those things. So that's
I
something for
prefer
everyone to
that.
keep in mind.
Yeah,
You
I
prefer
prefer
tell
that.
us why you prefer that.
I've always had an uphill everything I've it's always been uphill for whatever reason, and I think it just makes you better, right? Like if you can do it, if you
It's
can
true.
make it here, you can make it anywhere, Frank Sinatra. But I think it's true, and I heard a
Sing
while
it for
back, I
us,
heard
Jared.
yeah. Hey. But Brandon Turner said that, when he started off was right in the midst of the downturn, right? And he said the same thing. It's like, it made me better. right? Because he started off when things were tough and you had to have your margins right and you had to have your numbers. So I feel like that's a gift. I grew up, you know, we're doing okay financially now, but I didn't grow up that way, and that made me appreciate money. Sorry, but I do. And the power of it, what you can do with it to help people and grow your family and all that. But my mom was a hairdresser, my dad, retired Army and a security guard, right? So it wasn't like we had a lot of money, and so that helped me, hey, appreciate it and sort of stepped up. And I heard something recently, just yesterday. It was Cody Sanchez. She was talking about how people say life's a game, and she looks at games as levels. And I resonated with that because that's how when I was a kid, I played video games, right? And so I'm like, all right, I'm at the next, like when I was at Intel, I started off at the help desk, right? And I'm like, all right, here's the first level. And then within a week, I'm not kidding, within a week, I thought I was going to get fired and actually ended up getting a promotion. So I was like, I wrote a script, right? They told me do it this way, edit by hand. And the second day, I just couldn't do it, man. I was like, this sucks. So I just did it my own way, and I was on probation. And then the manager a week later said, "What are you doing?" Anyway, it ended up being a good thing. But so it was like this level thing, right? And then next thing you know, 6 months into it, I rolled out some other thing, and I kept getting to the next level, right? And then I ended up leaving as a mid-level manager, started at the help desk. It took 23 years and been promoted through the years. But anyway, I think I reached the end of that game, and so now I'm playing a whole new game, right? So I gave up on the corporate game, and now I'm playing the real estate game. So I have to start over, right? I'm starting at zero, starting at level one, right?
I relate to that because that's how I look at life too. I really
Yeah.
do look at it as a game and with levels, and it can be fun that way. Of course, it can be extremely challenging too. But when you come back, even amidst the pain, too, this is a game, and I'm learning. I'm here. I mean, I spiritually, I believe like that we're here to evolve and to continue to grow. So it meshes with that metaphor. But whatever someone believes, if they're able to have a growth mindset in some way where they say, there is another step for me, and when I'm able to take that step or even attempt to take that step, that's growth that happens. Even if I fail taking that step, there's going to be somebody out there who's done that before and is willing to help me, whether it's through a free YouTube video that you just stumble upon, or someone's willing to take some time and actually mentor you or give advice. That's There's always something out there that's going to help us get to that next level, and we got to keep finding that. And that's why the networking is so important, because even just conversations, you mentioned it, networking event you went to a couple of days ago, and it was so powerful because you were able to have those conversations. And even with some really prominent people, you mentioned Vina Jetty was there, and she's a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
prominent name in the multifamily space, and she was willing to just have a chat and give you
Yeah.
guidance.
She
And
was
it's like,
so approachable, just super cool, everything. I think she's worth like, I don't know, $1 billion or something, right? And that was because I met Shad, Shad Nujami. I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but REA conveyor belt guy. And he's super awesome. And he's the one who told me. I didn't even know about it that day. I happened to be in Arizona, and that's where the pre-mastermind was at. And he's like, "Hey, man, you should come down to this thing." I'm like, "Oh, is it public?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." So I showed up there. I'm not in the mastermind, but I showed up and networked with all those people. I was definitely out of my league. I shouldn't even have been there. All those people are just way, way up there. But I learned a lot. It was awesome. And I met Shad a while back, but I've been talking to him, but I didn't realize Shad was a big deal. That's how dumb I am. I mean, I'm relatively new in the community. I joined Sub 2 like, I don't know, a month and a half, 2 months ago, and he's a big deal. I was like, oh wow. But I met him kind of through Effie, right? What the Effie, right? So I've been talking to her because she's doing co-living, and she reached out to me, and I felt so fortunate because she spent like 2 hours on the phone with me, and I was talking to a couple other people that were trying to get meetings with her, and they're like, "Oh man, she's so busy, I can't get a hold of her. It's been like a couple weeks now." But I was like, "Oh well, I just spent 2 hours on the phone with her." I felt super, blessed that, you know. Anyway, so it's been I don't know what it is, man. I'm just super lucky. That's all. That's all.
so the lesson is go crash some mastermind meetings.
Yeah, yeah. Hop in, say hey, talk to Vina Jetty. It's just easy. It's like that. No.
I mean, there is a lesson there though, with if it's okay with people to have a chat, or just be casual. Ultimately, everyone's a person. We're all just people, no matter how far along we are, whether we're just starting, whether we're way far along. So it just is that mindset that you have, and I think it's a very powerful mindset that you have in particular, of just like, I'm just gonna go see what happens.
Yeah. What can
Worst,
hurt?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
most of the time. the worst case isn't as bad as we think it's going to be. Like, because the worst case in our minds is often like they may reject me and never talk to me again. And worse than that, they might tell everybody else on the planet not to talk to me. And then I'll be isolated and then I'll die. Like, and that's like the
Yeah.
fear that plays out in our minds. And it's like, it's usually not that bad.
Uh,
In fact,
yeah,
it's
another
usually
thing
a
that
lot
happened
better
at
than
the
that. Usually the people you make new friends when you go and have a
yeah.
chat with people.
Well, speaking of friends, my first Gator, or I guess it really wasn't Gator, it was a PML deal, private money lending deal. I had wrestled or roped in two other people, Ismelda Smith and Grace, I can't say her name, Minorca. Anyway, they were there and they walked in the door and I just reacted. I gave them hugs and everything. And then I realized, wait a minute, this is the first time I met him in person. It was one of their first deals too. We did pretty good. It was a 15% return in 2 months. It was a pretty good deal. So anyway, I saw them as they walked in. So it was cool. I got to see somebody or a couple of people in person that I'd done a deal with, never met. And then this is the first time we're meeting in person. Like that was a couple of months ago. I don't remember how long ago that deal was, but so it was kind of neat to see people I'd done deals with, but met them in person too. So it was really cool. And I met Heather Witzig. So I've been talking to her. I'm trying to get my 401k rolled and self-directed, talking to Jess and Heather. And I met her too. And it was like, hey, so it was awesome, man. It was a great event.
Very cool. Well, how about we pause there and
Sure.
save some more juicy stuff for the next update, whenever that's going to be. I know you're busy getting that house ready for short-term rental and then getting that rented and then finding the next house, etc. So we'll catch up again in the future and get another update.
All right, Sonny. Take it easy,
All
man.
right.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. Bye for now.
See you.